Fantasy football week 3 starts, sits, waiver plays for the running back position. I go game by game, giving you the projections to start, sits. Sometimes I give you, hey, Brian, DJ Chark or Slayton, full PPR. Let me pull up the computer. I think Chark, assuming I saw he had an injury designation. Let me look here. Chark, I have getting a, where are you? My bad. An 18.75, which means yardage and touchdown. That's a 1 touchdown. Hey, Daryl, I appreciate the comment. I appreciate that. We're doing a ton of content today, so as long as you can stick with the live stream, you're going to see a new segment here. Let me look for you, Bryant, on Slayton. Where are you, Giants? Slayton I have as a 17.39, so that's a kind of a coin flip for me. DJ Chark, Thursday Night Football, is he's questionable, so that concerns me a little bit. But at the same time, I have some concerns about what this offense is going to look like without Saquon. Devonta Freeman, I love the signing, but it's going to take him like a week or two, I feel like he's only going to be playing like 40% of the snaps or something like that because he's going to be coming off. His body isn't NFL ready. It's going to be cold. So that means to me, I feel like Daniel Jones is going to be chucking the ball more down the field. If I have to pick one, I'm going to take DJ Chark because I like him. But just pay attention tonight. Make sure he's active. That's important. So an hour before game time, just check NFL.com/inactives. You go on, your ESPN or your Roto World or whoever you use, and just make sure that he's feeling good. Because if he's not feeling good, it's such a toss up for me that I'd be okay doing Slayton. Okay, I'm gonna get back to. I'm actually just gonna restart that wide receiver or the running back video, and keep the questions coming, guys. I'll get to them after the segment's done. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and I do have my computer projections up, so I can kind of get more granular with everybody today as well. All right, take 2. Fantasy football running back starts, sits, and waiver wire plays or stream plays, daily fantasy plays for the running back position. I'm going to be going game by game, giving you the projections, kind of some rankings here and there. I'll be talking about touchdowns as well. So if you're in a touchdown-only league, I think this will help. Once again, game by game, so let's get to it. Miami versus Jacksonville. Jordan Howard, for me, I was super high on him early in the season, and his role is actually kind of what I predicted it would be. What I didn't predict well was that Miami's run game, they have not fixed it in terms of short yardage. Jordan Howard does take snaps when Ryan Fitzpatrick is under center, but when he's playing shotgun, Myles Gaskin dominates the snaps. Now, people ask me who's the better runner, Howard or Gaskin. I'll say Gaskin looks better, but Gaskin is also running against more favorable matchups. Gaskin is the guy for me to have in the Miami Dolphins backfield. So if he's available for you on waivers, snap him up. I have Gaskin as a 18.35 in DraftKings, which means he's going to get some receptions. He's going to get some yardage, could find the end zone as well. He's a start grade for me, Myles Gaskin. Jordan Howard, while Miami's offensive line can't handle kind of goal line situations, Jordan Howard's not going to have a high yards per carry, but if you're in a touchdown-only league, he does have that role. So he will have value. The problem is I think his value is going to be like next year, and when Tua ends up taking over, if it does indeed happen this season, he's going to be running a lot of shotgun. That, to me, means the safest bet for running back in Miami is Myles Gaskin, and I also agreed this week as well. Jacksonville, James Robinson runs so hard. He's so talented. He's a start for me every week. I don't know that he gets in the end zone, but he'll get you enough yardage to make it through. And then I'm not a start on Thompson or Howard. Chicago versus Atlanta. David Montgomery is a start for me this week. Tariq Cohen, he's not being used as much in this offense this season. I don't like it. I think Chicago needs to use him. I think that helps Mitch Trubisky, puts Trubisky in better positions to succeed in this offense. Either way, David Montgomery this week for me will churn up yardage, could find the end zone. Atlanta, Todd Gurley. I don't love this offense for running backs, but I think he gets you enough yardage this week to get in there. I know Chicago's a tough defense. I've been saying it all week, but I think Chicago tries to ratchet down the passing yardage for Atlanta, which gives Todd Gurley more holes. This is roulette, though, maybe even Russian roulette, because Dirk Cutter will move away from the run and warp speed. So we'll see what happens there. But like I said, if you have him, Todd Gurley for me is a bottom grade flex. Maybe gets a touchdown, maybe gets you some yardage, but you could probably honestly do better in wide receiver if you're looking for a bottom grade flex. And neither Cohen, or Hill are starts for me there. Cincinnati versus Philadelphia. Joe Mixon for me is in prove it mode. Here's my concern with Cincinnati. Look, it's not that Joe Mixon can't run, because I honestly think he's the most talented skill player on that whole roster. But Zach Taylor, what did he do last season when he had Andy Dalton and whoever the guy was? I can't even remember that backup quarterback that they ended up starting for a few games there. Early in the season, all Taylor did was throw the ball. And I'm talking he threw the ball in like Dirk Cutter-like proportions. I don't like that. When you go out of balance as an offense, when you start one-dimensional against NFL defenses, these defensive coordinators, they make a lot of money because they're pretty smart. I don't like it. I don't like the offensive system. I'm on record. I said the same thing about Freddie Kitchens last year. The same exact thing. Give the ball to Chubb was what I was screaming last year. I'm screaming this year for Cincinnati. Give the ball to Mixon. It helps the entire offense. Zach Taylor doesn't want to do that, apparently, okay? That game was close enough that they could have finished with Mixon. And by the way, you have 61 passing attempts for Joe Burrow. How many went to Mixon? Like 4? Give me a break. It's pathetic. I'm sorry, Cincinnati fans. I like Cincinnati. I do root for them. I want Cincinnati to be good. So that's why I'm a little bit more effusive in my annoyance of Zach Taylor. But I just don't like it. Joe Mixon, all the talent in the world, they're not giving him the ball. Driving me crazy, making my hair fall out. That's where I wear a hat. Joe Mixon, for me, prove it. I'm sorry. And I'm worried. I'm worried about Joe Mixon. Philadelphia, Miles Sanders. I have him as a start. I have Boston Scott as a start as well. I think Sanders helps Scott. Scott gets enough catches and yardage this week, and Philadelphia is hurting on the outside, so I think there's going to be a lot of screen passes, possibly a screen touchdown. Boston Scott might be my favorite daily fantasy sleeper there this week. Miles Sanders, yardage, catches. He's a factor everywhere. Philadelphia is better with him on the field. Miles Sanders is a start. Keith, I'll get to your question just a bit once I'm done through these games here. Tying back up to that point, I know Cincinnati fans will say, Mixon will look to the back half of last season. I know. I remember that. And I remember saying, well, it's about time, Zach Taylor. So do it now. Come on. Burrow, I love Burrow. He's going to be amazing as a quarterback. I mean, buy all his rookie cards, invest in him any way you can, get him in your dynasty leagues. But you got to run the ball more. Balance on offense, guys. Let's see. Houston versus Pittsburgh. David Johnson. I don't have a great projection on him, but I actually am starting him this week because Will Fuller is out. I think they need to use the screen game more. So while my computer projection is low, I do have a start grade. Personally, this is gut. This is my gut. I have him as a start grade because I think Watson's going to have to spread the ball around like crazy. That includes tight ends. That includes Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb. And David Johnson had a tough matchup against Baltimore last week. I think he looks more like he did against Kansas City in week 1 against Pittsburgh. As for Pittsburgh, James Conner is a definite start. I have him ranked as the 11th best running back this week, and I have him at an 18, which means he has a touchdown, the 1 touchdown grade for me this week. Las Vegas versus New England. Josh Jacobs, I think he's a good bet to do to be able to reproduce what Seattle did in the running game last week. New England's what New England does, right? They're going to try to lock down Darren Waller, probably match up Stephon Gilmore on him. That's my guess anyway, and do their best to bracket coverage on Henry Ruggs, and then just try to stack the box with 7 and 8 as much as they can. But Vegas, I've watched them. I watched them a lot last year. I bet on them quite a bit because they're always underrated. I'm betting that Josh Jacobs finds the end zone this week. Even though I really respect New England, I know how good their defense, I know how well coached they are. I know that they're going to be keying to stop the run. I'm a believer in this Raiders team, and they stick to it. So even if Jacobs has like a 3.3 yards per carry average like he did against New Orleans, he's still going to be a factor in this game. New England, Sony Michel is a no. And then James White, if he plays at this point, is also a no. I'm really curious to see what happens when Damian Harris comes back. I think he's eligible to return next week. This might be the week to pick him up and stash him, especially if you have an injured reserve slot. Just pick him up and put him on that injured reserve for a list. You'd rather have him now than later. Let's see here. Los Angeles Rams, Malcolm Brown is a questionable, so we'll see. By the way, Rams versus Bills. Brown is questionable. We'll see. Darrell Henderson has moved ahead of Cam Akers on the depth chart as of yesterday. I know this thing always kind of rotates, but Darrell Henderson looked good last week. So actually, although they're playing Buffalo, although the computers don't love the Rams and their running attack, and by the way, they didn't love Goff either, I do think the Rams will stick with the run. I do think that there will be some touchdown opportunities. So bottom grade flex, yes, I would not invest in them daily fantasy. A little bit too risky for me. I'd rather invest in Boston Scott, who my computers love. Now, Buffalo, Devin Singletary, I have this as start grade. I have him ranked as the 15th running back. I know we haven't seen much from him. When he's gotten carries, he's looked good. They really haven't used him in the screen game. Frankly, Buffalo hasn't had to. They've been pushing the ball downfield with success. I think the Rams will do a little bit better against Buffalo with their downfield passing. So I think this is the week that Buffalo works the short yardage, the flats in the middle of the field. We'll see. We'll see if I'm right about that. That's more gut than anything else. But my computers do like Devin Singletary for some screen passes, possibly a touchdown as well. Let's see here. Tennessee. No, I'm sorry, I skipped. San Francisco versus the Giants. McKinnon is a slam dunk start, top 5 running back for me this week. Jeff Wilson is somebody that's interesting to me in daily fantasy. He could be a daily fantasy sleeper. The San Francisco team does like to rotate their running backs. McKinnon will get the lion's share of carries, don't get me wrong. But with with Mostert, with Coleman out, Jeff Wilson, he has looked good in the past. He has been kind of a short yardage specialist in the past. Daily fantasy sleeper, and if you're really hurting, you're really struggling at running back, you can pick him up and plug him and play him. Analytics don't love the plug and play method, but I've seen Wilson Jr. in the past, and I think he's going to be good. Plus, if McKinnon goes down with an ankle or something like that, it's been happening everywhere in the league, then you have that Wilson maybe in the second half, backfield all to himself, that'd be good. New York Giants, Devonta Freeman, Dion Lewis. I actually have Freeman as a start this week, but beware, he's not going to play a full game. This isn't Madden. You can't turn injuries off. I mean, he's coming in. His body isn't in NFL shape. He doesn't really know the system that well. His skill set matches Saquon Barkley, but it's going to take a little bit of time for this to meld. We're seeing the same thing with Fournette and Tampa Bay. It's going to take some time for him to really strengthen his hold, in my opinion, on this running back situation, but he should be rostered in every league. He will be good as we move forward. And Dion Lewis I have as a sit. He was not effective when he went into action. Devonta Freeman, he'll get some passes right off the bat, so I think you can play him. Again, daily fantasy, I'm not sure what his budget is, but it's probably pretty low because they set those budgets early. So he should be in everybody's daily fantasy roster, in my opinion. Washington, I'm sorry, I skipped again. Tennessee versus Minnesota. Derrick Henry, start. Darrington Evans, no. I had a dream, by the way. Derrick Henry blew out his Achilles. I hope that doesn't happen. My dreams never come true anyway. So my dreams are come true to have 1 million views a day on this channel. We're not there yet. Maybe someday. But Derrick Henry's a start. You got to start him every week. But seriously, though, teams have been keying in on stopping Derrick Henry, selling out, and Ryan Tannehill's been kind of splicing them apart. I think this is the week that Minnesota, especially with their pass coverage, I think they play a little bit more honest. So I think Derrick Henry this week will have more room to run against Minnesota. So I think he does better and probably has his best day of the season, this young season. Minnesota, meanwhile, Dalvin Cook, I think this is the week that he gets back to what we're used to seeing from Dalvin Cook. I think he puts up a 22. I have him ranked, or projected anyway, computer projections, at the 5th running back there. Evans and Madison, I may sit. Although I would like to see Madison attack this defensive line for Tennessee. I think Minnesota, to put Kirk Cousins in better position to succeed, they just need to go thump and run, which means use Madison, keep Cook fresh, and just do a 1-2 punch. We'll see what happens. Washington versus Cleveland. Antonio Gibson for me this week. I don't have a great computer projection on him, but I think he's a start every week. He's getting better and better. I like what he's doing there. Peyton Barber, nah. I mean, touchdown-only league, you could play him, but I'd stay away from him. Cleveland, they're going to try to commit to the run. I have start designations on both of these guys. My computers like them, both to get a touchdown this week. Go ahead and start them against a very tough and underrated at this point Washington defense. We will be, by the way, after the after these segments and everything, we will be recording a Washington versus Cleveland deep dive into the analytics, and I'll tell you why I like these matchups against these two teams matching up. Carolina versus LA Chargers. Mike Davis, I have his start designation. Now, a lot of this comes in with some Christian McCaffrey data, but honestly, I liked what I saw from Mike Davis last week. He's not Christian McCaffrey, but if he can be 80% of what Christian McCaffrey is, that's a start. So start him. Especially in daily fantasy, he's going to be cheap. Start him. Los Angeles Chargers, Austin Eckler, I have him as a big start. He's actually analytically ranked as my number 1 running back this week. I think Herbert will throw to him more than maybe Tyrod Taylor would. Joshua Kelly has a start grade as well. He's available in a lot of people's waivers still, so pick him up and start him. I think you can, especially in daily fantasy. New York Jets, Frank Gore, sit. I'm staying away from all Jets, not named Jamison Crowder when healthy. That's where I'm at on the Jets. They're just... The wheels are coming off. Sorry, New York. You see it, and I see it. It's bad. Indianapolis, Jonathan Taylor, ranked as the number 2 running back in terms of computer projections. Start him. He'll get in the end zone twice. Dallas versus... Nyheim Hines I actually have coming back as well. I think Nyheim Hines will get some catches and yards. Now, if he doesn't meet this, I think there's some risk because he kind of disappeared last week. But then again, game plan wise, the Colts just didn't need to use a running back out of the backfield as much. Let's pay attention. Is Jonathan Taylor a bell cow running back? I think the system wants to use 2 running backs. Again, I have Hines projected well, so maybe I rotate him into some of my daily fantasy lineups, but it might be a wait and see in my fantasy league. So there you go. Dallas versus Seattle. Ezekiel Elliott, start. Chris Carson, start. Carson I have as projected as the 6th-ranked quarterback. I think he runs well. Hyde does eat into some of those carries, especially late in the game, but Carson's displaying a lot better hands than any of us thought he had, so good for him. And Russell Wilson's throwing dimes every single snap. He's good. Dallas is going to want to play some ball control because, Seattle, what do we know? Russell Wilson's playing incredible, and Seattle wants to run the ball. This defense is going to be gassed. So Dallas is going to want to play some more ball control than maybe they would in other matchups. I think Ezekiel Elliott gets a healthy amount of carries, so I like him there. Detroit versus Arizona. The Adrian Peterson versus Kerryon Johnson. To me, that's a coin flip every week. It really probably goes down to who has had the better week in practice. But DeAndre Swift is pretty secure in his role there. I think he'll get some catches. This Detroit Lions offense is going to have to keep up with a tough Arizona team. These 2 teams squared off in week 1. Kyler Murray played an amazing second half in his first NFL game. Now he has DeAndre Hopkins to throw to. Kenyon Drake, meanwhile, back to the running backs. Kenyon Drake is a start for me, but he's kind of a mid-range start, but he's a start nonetheless. I don't have him getting in the end zone, but I think he'll get you enough catches, enough yardage, and everything to be worth a play. Back to Detroit. DeAndre Swift, I think he gets more passes out of the backfield. We'll see what happens if Golladay comes back too. I think that will really help this offense. That's going to be a fun game to watch, everybody. This is a more interesting matchup than it might look on paper with a 2-0 and an 0-2 team. Tampa Bay versus Denver. Leonard Fournette, to me, is the running back there, although at last check, Ronald Jones was still ahead of him on the depth chart. Jones kind of was in the doghouse because he had a poor exchange. He took a handoff, about the most pathetic quarterback to running back handoff I've ever seen. It was really bad. After that, Fournette ran away. I've been saying for a while that Fournette is a better running back than Ronald Jones. He will eventually be the starter. I think I think Fournette is the guy this week, but beware, Jones is still ahead on the depth chart. I have Fournette as a start grade. Me personally, I think there's too much risk there with the depth chart shuffle, so I'd probably stay away from it. But for what it's worth, my computer's like Fournette at a 15.48, which is a touchdown grade with some nice rushing yardage. Denver, Melvin Gordon is a start. They're going to want to give him the ball and commit to giving him the ball for as long as that they're in the game. And even when they're out of the game, Melvin Gordon can catch. Philip Lindsay's still doubtful at this point. I don't see anybody else. Cortland Sutton out. I think even Judy might be questionable at this point. They're going to need Melvin Gordon. They're going to have to run the offense through him as much as they can. So based on that volume alone, I have him as a start. Green Bay versus New Orleans. Look, New Orleans, I've been saying it all year. They hold running backs to low yardage, low yards per carry, but it's Aaron Jones. Green Bay, he could have had 3 touchdowns in week 1. I think he did have 3 touchdowns in week 2. Green Bay commits to Aaron Jones, especially on the goal line. You got to start him every week. If you put them on the bench because they're playing a tough Saints defense, then what are you really doing? I always say you draft, in those first 3 rounds, you draft those players to be stars. Unless proven otherwise, like we're seeing with Joe Mixon right now in Cincinnati, you got to start him against tough teams. That's what you draft him to do, is play well against the tough teams. New Orleans, Alvin Kamara, you got to play him every week, especially if Michael Thomas is out. They need him in the passing game to keep things moving, but I have him as a start grade. Latavius Murray might get into the end zone as well. I don't start him, but maybe in touchdown-only leagues, maybe in daily fantasy, you need a kind of a cheaper running back. He might be a guy in there, but again, I think he can do better elsewhere. Last game of the week here, Kansas City versus Baltimore. You got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I do not like the matchup for 2 reasons. 1, Baltimore's really good. They're tough against the run. He's not going to have a lot of room to run. 2, we saw it last week. I mean, we saw it on tape. We saw it with our own eyes in week 1. In goal line situations, he was kind of bounced backwards a couple of times, like literally bounced backwards. It was almost butt fumble category with Mark Sanchez from back in the day. But seriously, Edwards-Helaire, he's a really good running back, but he's not getting that push in short yardage situations. So I think we saw Darwin Thompson. I don't know if Darrell Williams will be fulfilling that role this week or what. But what we're going to see from Edwards-Helaire is when he has space, he's going to be good. You drafted him early, you're probably going to play him. What did I just say? If you drafted him to be a star, you play him even in a tough defensive matchup. I'm just saying, computer projections, I don't have him as a great grade. I would personally play him, but I would not buy him in daily fantasy. I don't like the matchup. Baltimore, Mark Ingram, I have as a start. J.K. Dobbins is interesting to me, but Gus Edwards kind of got more of the snap share, at least more of the carry total last week. So watch that evolve. J.K. Dobbins to me is still the best pure running back on that roster with respect to Mark Ingram. At some point, Dobbins, I think, will wrestle that job away, but Mark Ingram, man, he's going to make that hard. In reality, I see this being more like what we saw in New Orleans with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. I think this will be a kind of a two-back system at some point, but it's taken some time for Dobbins to break through because Gus Edwards is perpetually underestimated. And at some point, I think this offseason, he's going to be a free agent. He's going to land somewhere. He could be a starter. So if you're in a dynasty league, maybe buy low on him. If you have a deeper league, and stash him, especially towards the end of the season. He's really good. Look at his career statistics. I mean, he's really good. That takes me through the game by game. Let me give you some daily fantasy streams and some late week waiver wire pickups if you're in a really tough position. If you missed on the McKinnon sweepstakes, he is my number one waiver wire running back, but he's probably gone by now. He's at a 20. So that, I mean, he's a very good projection. But if you want to find guys like Mike Davis, I'm sure he's already taken, but he'd be a great daily fantasy play. I think, like I said, I think he gets you about 80% of what a Christian McCaffrey maybe would get you. And he displayed better hands than I thought he had last week when McCaffrey was hurt. So there you go. Joshua Kelly is still available on a lot of people's waivers wires. You could pick him up and play him, especially this week. I like the matchup. Myles Gaskin, we talked about at the top of the episode. You could scoop him and play him. I think he is the better running back to have because he's more of the shotgun running back. Whether it's Fitzpatrick or Tua back there taking snaps, Miami's going to be playing a lot of shotgun. They are getting no push when they're taking snaps from under the center. Jordan Howard has more value in touchdown-only leagues, standard leagues. I think Gaskin is your guy if you had playing any PPR format or playing daily fantasy. Lastly here, Boston Scott. I love Miles Sanders. Philly's struggling on the outside. I have a computer projection for him to get a screen pass touchdown this week against who are they playing? Cincinnati. So Boston Scott and Miles Sanders, by the way, but of course Miles Sanders is rostered. Boston Scott's somebody you could probably pick up, plug and play this week, and he's another daily fantasy sleeper type back, probably until Philadelphia finds some answer on the outside with the receivers. So there you go. There's a full week.